It's Tuesday, October 9th, 2012. I'm Alex Jones, and this is yet another original, teleprompter-free, pro-liberty and pro-humanity edition of Infowars Nightly News. Get ready!
Tonight, Big Pharma exposes 13,000 people to contaminated meningitis shots. Plus, simply taking photos of the weather now means you are a terrorist. Then, smartphones for the brain. Transhumanists look into our cyborg future. All that and more on the Infowars Nightly News.
The news is coming up, but first off, I want to invite you to join us tomorrow night because I've sent out 3 of our reporters to Austin, Texas, where this transmission originates from, to talk to local Austinites and to find out if they agree with the Obama phone lady that they deserve free goodies, that Obama gave them a phone and that Obama's going to do more in his next administration. Obviously, they don't know that energy prices have gone up and that many states and the federal government tag bills onto cell phone owners, and they also tag bills onto power bills and things like that to pay for all of these great freebies that they think that they're getting. We just found a lot of people that think Obama gave them money 4 years ago for voting for him and is going to give them more money in the future. Just incredible domestication and dependency. We've got 2 different reports with 3 different reporters tomorrow night. Darren McBreen, Jakari Jackson, and, of course, David Ortiz on this. But first off, let me just remind you with the now infamous Obama phone lady from last week. Then we'll show you just a small clip of what's coming up tomorrow night.
Obama.
You got Obama phone?
Yes, everybody in Cleveland, low minority, got Obama phone. Keep Obama in president, you know. He gave us a phone.
He gave you a phone?
Do more.
How did he give you a phone?
You sign up if you on food stamps, you on Social Security, you got low income, you disability.
I have a question. Okay, what's wrong with Romney again?
Romney, he sucks. Bad.
And again, some people like to laugh at that lady. It's very, very sad that their hopes and dreams are to elect someone who will take from others to give to them. That is the opposite of the American dream. That's the American nightmare. Now, here's a clip that Jakari Jackson got, and we've got quite a bit of this stuff coming up tomorrow night that's definitely going to be newsmaking, where people say, yeah, Obama gave me $200 because I voted for him. Here is that clip.
Now, you say he's helped you out. Can you name one way that he's helped you out?
He gave me $200 when he returned to president.
You got $200 from Obama?
He gave everybody that had a disability $200 when he turned president. I remember that because I got $200. But that ain't the reason.
Did you get in a check, or how did the $200 go?
Well, I had to wait 5 years to get it.
So you filled out an application, or what was the process?
Well, you're not all there. You got to go to, I ended up in a mental hospital.
So there you go. And there are a lot of sad people out there who basically have had their hopes and dreams, in my view, ruined by government. And he goes on to say, you know, I didn't vote for him because of the money, but he's a good guy, he gave me money. I remember when Bush first got elected, they announced Bush is going to give you $300, all taxpayers, and $300 came with a letter saying Bush had given it to me. In fact, for tomorrow's report, I mean, I know that happened. It was big news at the time, like 2002. Pull up where Bush, because this is bipartisan, gave everybody, I think it was $300. But then I remember when Obama first got elected, it was checks going out to everybody, not just people with disabilities. And people think, oh, my God, I got $300. They don't realize all the different fines and fees and taxes and regulations and all of it that are out there. So big report. That's just a small taste of what is coming up tomorrow night. Now, let's go to our top story this evening. CNN, your behavior will be controlled by a brain chip. And a new CNN article predicts that within 75 years, yeah, how about 10 years, People will have embedded microchips within their brain that will allow their behavior to be controlled by a third party. Yeah, just last year I saw a CBS News piece where their academics are looking at brain chips in prisoners to make them behave. So they're already pushing this. The story entitled "Smartphone of the Future Will Be in Your Brain," and it goes over all that. But they always tell you it's way off in the distance, and it's always done in a semi-satirical fashion. Now, shifting gears to what's currently happening, let this be a warning, America. When the riots start, the government response will be brutal. And we have some video of this. The police in Spain have been beating people. Well, there's been some deaths. And they have been absolutely just viciously attacking anyone that protests massive tax increases to pay foreign banks. And the media spins it and says that it's a Spanish debt. And they are attacking women. They are attacking men. We actually won a lawsuit against the city of Pittsburgh, Rob Dew did, where they cordoned everybody at the university who wasn't even protesting. The G20 was over that day. And were knocking women off bikes with clubs and beating people. They went in dorms and attacked. It was kind of like a piranha riot or something. And it was just an act of domination. And that's what's happening. And they will raise your taxes. They will give the money to foreign banks if you let them. That is the plan. With jobless rates for those between 20 and 35 exceeding 50%, further social spending measures promised by the government. But it doesn't matter. The cops are getting their money. They're mercenaries now. See, when the economy gets worse, folks, they tend to get even more vicious because now, hey, mama wants the money. The babies need the food. That's why globalists, communists, socialists, fascists, they always seek to bankrupt the general public because they control the purse, and then you'll do anything. They want you poor. Authoritarians want you poor. That comes out of Bilderberg each year, that they want to bankrupt us because they say, how dare they have money to come protest us here? Shut down the economy. And there's always a debate. But if we shut it down too fast, they'll wake up to us. It doesn't matter. Get it over with. Shut them down now. So there you have it, the face of tyranny that Marcos Morales has highlighted there in the graphic. Marcos, you did that graphic, right? I recognize your fine handiwork, taking a photo and then just illustrating it by pointing that out. Clawing the face. And look at the guy's face, if you can blow that up, who's doing it. He has a satanic grimace of extreme pleasure. How many of you want to bet that guy can't pick up a lady? But I guess in the future he will be, because even though the women will hate him, you're not going to eat unless you're dating somebody in a uniform. That happened in Nazi Germany towards the end. Look at him. He is really enjoying clawing her eye, her nose, and her face. And then another guy's, sitting there choking her. That's, oh man, that's really manly. There's hours of these videos. I was watching them last night. You'll see them. They'll see a good-looking woman, and they'll run out and grab her, and it's like some kind of sexual pleasure. They'll beat them in the head real hard and then choke them and drag them off into the night. But hey, it's freedom. It's freedom. I mean, again, I shouldn't be an extremist. I support the officers. I'm pro-law enforcement. Everyone take your vaccines. The government loves you. All right. Before the New York Times quotes that, I'm being sarcastic. It's called satire. I know you drank some fluoride. You don't know that. Let's go ahead and continue here. DHS to test spy drones for public safety applications. Yeah, for about 7 years, they've been saying they're testing them. They're arresting people with them in North Dakota and other areas. But then they ran articles a few months ago saying, I'm making it all up. There's no drone surveilling us. They're not arming the drones, even though I can show you countless newscasts where they are. But look at her. I mean, well, they've had some big sexual scandals up there. Well, they like to brutalize people, reportedly. They've been settling, by the way, so must be true. You don't think her and the other ladies are into dominating people, do you? I mean, look at those eyes. That's a well-rounded spiritual person. That's not a cancer, a self-propelled cancer. That's a good creature right there. Wouldn't you love her to babysit your kids? I mean, look, she's smiling at you. And she ran fast and furious. I mean, thousands are dead. But it was to blame the Second Amendment. I mean, it was to ban guns, where we can all live like the murder capital of the world, Chicago. I mean, she did it for a good reason. That's why I endorse her as well. But again, they get into how many of these drones are actually off of the Switchblade Army type that can be used to basically target you with an explosive and blow your head off. That is a switchblade style model right there, I should add. People won't believe that. Search new military drones, switchblades, to kill you from 5 miles. You can show people. But they say the new combat robots are for public safety as well. I mean, public safety is everything we're seeing. It's TSA. It's for your safety, to save us from Al-Qaeda, the government publicly runs. I saw it in the news again today, a bunch of news articles, Washington Post, you name it. They've got to attack Iran to prove Obama is tough on Al-Qaeda. That's right. Of course, the government runs Al-Qaeda, and Iran is at war with Al-Qaeda because they're Shiite. But hey, Shiite, Sunni, Wahhabist. I'm bad because I actually know the players. I apologize. The Dallas Cowboys are the Washington Redskins. I agree with you. Here's another one. 13,000 people exposed to big pharma shots, contaminated with rare fungal meningitis. But don't worry, they've got ads on TV saying you need to take the meningitis vaccines. That's right. You've heard of the meningitis outbreaks. Well, get out and get your viral or bacterial meningitis shots today that are linked to all these horrible side effects. They don't mention, by the way, this is fungal meningitis from big pharma. Totally different, but it's like, hey, you got a toothache? Have somebody chop your leg off. You know, it's good. Again, we're teleprompter free. That's why I've had a little relapse, and I'm not saying you should, go out and take all the vaccines, which they admit are killing people deader than a hammer. Let's go ahead and go to the next story here. Why do supporters of genetically engineered foods insist on organics for their own families? Dr. Joseph Mercola, Mercola.com is covering this. I want to get him back on the show, by the way, guys. That awesome. That's a priority. Good. Already on it. And the reason this is important is I've been beating the drum about this for the last few years. I've got articles in the Chinese papers, the U.S. papers, you name it, going back about 12 years. Well, actually 99, so 13 years. Where the Monsanto laboratories, their employees have non-GMO. That's CBC reporting on that as well out of Canada. They do the same thing up there. And the Chinese elite won't do it. The British royalty won't do it. The rich people won't do it. The government people of the EU won't take any of the vaccines. That came out in the news. Just look that up. Or they get a, quote, clean vaccine. And it just goes over all these quotes in the article. We've got some of them we can put up on screen. Peter Alexander of MSN reported that, going back a decade, the Romneys have had profiles where they talk about they don't eat anything but organic. But he's a big Monsanto guy promoting that, and he wants us to eat it. Well, I tell you what, pal, I think I'll eat what you eat. How's that sound? I'm paranoid like you. I'm an extremist like you. You know what? I know you say it's good for me, not good for you, but I may not, may not do too good eating what you want me to eat. Mother Jones reports the Clintons and Bush families dine regularly on organic foods, and they're totally obsessed with it. I mean, extreme stuff like grass-fed beef. I mean, they're only supposed to eat grass, but they say, oh, no, that's a conspiracy theory. Feed them rotten meat called offal, and then wonder why you get prions or prions from it. And then Michelle Obama told the New Yorker that she only eats organic and all that. But in her big national rollout telling you what you should eat, she doesn't talk about organic. She just says the federal government needs to tell you what to eat. And now, because the kids won't eat it, what they're telling them to eat, they're saying, well, we need to make parents feed them what we say. That was in the news yesterday. Moving right along, Houston man receives visit from the FBI after photographing weather. And it turned out that he was working with the National Weather Service. They have volunteers that upload it to websites. But because there was a refinery in the distance of the clouds, they came and visited him because God forbid they can visit the government running Al-Qaeda publicly in Libya and Syria and attacking Iran. God forbid they actually worry about the troops on TV saying they grow the opium and ship it into America under orders. God forbid they worry about Fast and Furious that they ran. God forbid that. And they said, well, just be more careful next time, even though, and I remember one time I wanted footage of refineries to talk about how they were shutting them down all over the country with regulations. So I was driving back from the beach from Corpus Christi, Port Aransas with my wife, and I just pulled over to get gas. And the Stasi network's so good that I got a camera out and shot at about a half mile away the refinery video that I could get off Google Earth or anywhere else. I mean, Al-CIA to Al-Qaeda knows where the refinery is. And we had people calling in the store on us. They've been told to, Infowars. And then we have the state police right behind us, running our plates, driving up and looking at us, and then peeling off after we've been put in the database for filming it. So don't worry. They have lots of little fake things for the government to drill on, believing they're fighting terrorists. But really, it's just getting the citizens used to it, the cops used to it. So when they give them the new orders, hey, is it a gun owner? Hey, are they criticizing the government? So that gets reported, which is now admitted. They're now segueing away from Al-Qaeda and blowing up chemical plants and things over to, did they criticize the government? That's in the new manuals. So we told you that. They've trained everybody on that, and now they're moving along. Here's one of the older articles from 1999 that I mentioned right here on the London Independent. GM food banned in Monsanto cantina. But again, the FBI doesn't want to investigate that. What do you want to bet the FBI isn't feeding GMO to their kids, though, or trying hard as they can to avoid it? Okay, that is it for the news portion. We're going to come back with our own David Knight in studio, getting into more admitted, secret, illegal testing on the American people going on right now. They won't even stop it. The group he's been part of is in court today trying to stop it. We'll get a breakdown on that. Pumping poisonous gas into unknowing subjects. That is coming up in the next segment, but they do it for our safety. But I wanted to read, Ray Kurzweil said, supercomputers will achieve 1 human brain capacity by 2010. Well, yeah, they're beating people at chess. And personal computers will do so by 2020. Ray Kurzweil may have already had it, but they certainly don't show us all the stuff that they've got. That's all part of the control freak system. We're going to go to break. We're going to come back. And we are going to have our guests right in here in studio with us for a lengthy discussion of the nature of humanity, the future, where everything is going. But just briefly, if you resonate with this information, you want to see it reach others, go get a PrisonPlanet.tv membership. One membership, the same username and passcode, can be used by 6 people simultaneously, $5.95 a month. That's less than $1 per person per month, and it pays for the bandwidth and a lot of the crew and equipment. PrisonPlanet.tv or InfoWarsNews.com will also take you there. We don't take your money at gunpoint. We ask you through free association to support us. That's why the globalists want to get rid of the free economy, because it manifests your will. Just like you start voting with your dollars for organics, they try to take over Whole Foods so you can't have that choice. Or you vote with your dollars to buy ammo, the government tries to buy up all the ammo so you can't get it, or to price it out of your range. We're in a fight, and we've still got the upper hand in the initiative if we fully awaken and take action. So again, InfoWarsStore.com. You can go there and get a subscription to the new Infowars magazine. Shipping is included in the price. You can buy them in groups of 10, 20, 50, up to 100 at cost, and give to your friends and family. And we have the money bomb. We've raised, I don't know, almost $500,000 last year with it, and it helped us buy the equipment, expand. Now we're building a couple more sets, and we need to be able to secure that we can pay everybody throughout the next year. It cost us close to $500,000 a month to run this operation. So, but a little bit here, a little bit there. Sounds like a lot, but for us, 50 crew members and contractors, it is really just something that would run us for a month. And we usually start this a month before. Usually have $100,000 in the kitty before we get to the 48-hour transmissions. Usually 24. We're going to do 48 hours this time. We did get some donations last night. It's important to have them update that each day. We need to put a big memo up there to start updating that each day. It'll go live that day and start updating, by the minute, basically, because we have people in there live doing it. But if you'd like to go donate, thank those that donated last night. $10, $250. If you don't spend your money now, that's your free speech. Voting for liberty and freedom, you're going to lose it. It's got to be all in. That's why I personally make less money than I made years ago, because back then I had less crew, and I would put a little money in the bank to back things up. Now I'm all in. In fact, if I keep investing, I may not even make any money this year. And that's basically my goal, is to do everything we can to get the word out now, because we don't know how long we'll be here. Okay, I mean, the situation is that dire. So again, InfowarsMoneyBomb.com. There's the address right there. Go donate today. InfowarsMoneyBomb.com. So we get that 100,000 going into the 48-hour money bomb. With just a raft of incredible guests and our reporters in there for 48 hours. So again, subscribe to the magazine. Buy the high-quality water filters discounted. Everything we got on the site is discounted and stuff I use. So everything at InfowarsStore.com is there. And when you subscribe, when you do any of this, all those different funding mechanisms are how we raise that almost $6 million a year. We just expanded to the facility next door. So all of that together is just part of our all-in total commitment to the fight against the globalist. All right, we'll be right back with David Knight and secret human experimentation, well, blown wide open by him and his compatriots. Stay with us. Welcome back. We are joined by Infowars.com reporter David Knight, who has now moved down to Austin, Texas from the Carolinas to work with us. And he's also is still a media fellow with the American Tradition Institute. And a few weeks ago, we covered the story. EPA sued over illegal experimentation on human subjects. And I wanted to dovetail it with this article that we covered a few weeks ago and again last night from the Associated Press. Secret Cold War test in St. Louis raised concerns. Some type of unnamed nerve agent was sprayed. Many people died during the test. They told the population that they were practicing spraying smoke to obscure Russian bombers so that they couldn't target and drop their atomic bombs back in the 1950s. And more of this is coming out. I mean, there's thousands of these tests, many of them lethal. And so my point is, we saw this with Joseph Mengele in Nazi Germany. Well, Joseph Mengele was allowed to leave through the rat line. Tens of thousands, more than 20,000 Nazi scientists were brought here to basically staff not just NASA, but so many other areas. But before the Nazis came here, there was eugenics going on in this country, in fact, leading the world. The Nazis actually cited in Nuremberg as their main defense. It was ignored. The fact that they were following Margaret Sanger. They were following what England had developed, what the United States had popularized. So there's some background there. But now the EPA had people unknowingly pumping carbon monoxide, well, diesel fumes that can kill you, into closed structures. I've looked at the evidence. It appears they were doing this to cook the books, to try to tax and basically harass people out on the road where you're not in a contained area, to kind of cook the books as they've been caught doing before. But we're still not exactly sure. That's why this lawsuit's gone forward. And just in the last, 24 hours or so, they've had a hearing on this. And our reporter, David Knight, has been talking to the American Tradition Institute that has brought this suit to stop these ongoing tests. The people that are being tested on are not being told they're having poisonous gas pumped in on them. Folks, if you put somebody in a closed structure with diesel fumes, it can kill them. That's a popular form of suicide, is either gasoline or diesel fumes that all have carbon monoxide, not carbon dioxide that plants breathe, carbon dioxide being pumped in on them. So to give us the latest on this, but to also talk about how the green movement, well, from our research, isn't so green, we'll get his take on it, is David Knight. David, good to have you here with us.
Thank you, Alex. Nice to be here.
Wow, so break this down. They just had a hearing in this lawsuit.
And we don't know what the results are yet. We won't know till tomorrow what the results are, but the hearing is supposed to be today. They got delayed from last Friday. But what they're talking about here is PM 2.5, which is a bit different than, you're talking about global warming and carbon dioxide that they're trying to reduce. They've been a lot more successful in getting regulation to reduce PM 2.5. And what that is particulate matter that's 2.5 microns or smaller. And the idea being that presents a special health issue because it's so small they can get to the fine areas of your body. There's not natural human filters to filter that out like there are larger particles. So the EPA already had all of these different regulations that said what it was safe, for there to be ambient PM 2.5 in cities, the maximum amount that you're supposed to be exposed to in a 24-hour period. And they violated all of these standards that they had created in these experiments. And a fellow named Steve Malloy noticed that they had a publication showing that one test subject had had a reaction and had to be taken to the hospital based on this. And so they'd written an entire paper on that, and it just didn't make any sense to him that they would do a study with just a single subject. So he started investigating, and he found out that there wasn't one, but there were 41 subjects. And then as he's tried to get more information, he thinks that there's perhaps as many as 150 people that they've done this to.
Now, I interviewed one of the heads of the institute you're part of. He's a lawyer, but also a scientist, just a few weeks ago. Well, I guess a doctor, and he was breaking down the fact that he'd worked at the EPA for decades, and that this was just completely illegal, what they were now doing, and what they've been caught doing.
Right. Yeah, David Schneier actually went to UNC, University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and he worked for the EPA, and he's retired from them. I think he worked over 30 years with the EPA. And like David said, you know, he got in to take care of some real pollution issues. But as he's seen mission creep over the years, so now they're into areas where there's not really a clear health issue to people.
Well, they said last year that they were going to give $2,000 a day fines. In fact, guys, I can pull this up. EPA to ban hay dust. Well, I mean, hay dust is everywhere.
Right.
I've worked on a ranch dealing with it. If it's a really dusty day, you just wear a bandana, but that's normal, natural. And I'm seeing reports now where they're saying, oh, everything is toxic, unless it's the asbestos from the collapsed towers, then that's safe. Purely a selective enforcement power grab where they're raising the... Take coal power plants, as you know. I know you've studied this, but I've had the scientist on. Now the clean burning ones put out nothing but carbon dioxide, not monoxide. You know, plants take that in, put off oxygen, and water vapor, and now that's why they've listed that as toxic, so they can selectively shut down their competition. I mean, I'm interviewing you, I'm ranting here. It's just that I've really learned their game plan. You study this more in depth than I have. Go over it for us.
Well, you know, on the a lot of that's being driven by renewable mandates, and there's 30 states that have signed on to renewable mandates, and that means they've got to get a certain percentage of their electricity from quote-unquote renewable sources like solar, wind, that sort of thing. Those are very expensive sources of power, and they're shut down power plants not only here but in North Carolina. And you know, and there's also mergers going on with the big utility companies. So they're going to see utility rates go up about 10% in North Carolina because of plant closures there this year. But you know, going back to particulate matter stuff that they're doing, that's something that, you know, the EPA is kind of between a rock and a hard place on this. You know, they have a situation where they've told people how dangerous this is. We've got Lisa Jackson telling people, you know, telling the Senate, actually as a congressional committee, that she's not talking about somebody getting sick. She's talking about people dying. And then she compares it to the number of people that are dying from cancer, says that if they can stop particulate matter, it's equivalent to finding a cure for cancer. And she repeated that a couple of times.
Well, I remember last year when they came out with the hay story, they said we've got to dust off plows, hay. That was in the regulations. And then they just showed an article where those statements were being made by congressmen, but then they have the writers saying, but that's not true. It's like they launch drones on us, there's a backlash, and they go, there's no drones.
Right.
And then they're back a week later, there are drones. Or they say, you know, we're not growing opium in Afghanistan. Oh, yes, we are. Or they come in and say the TSA isn't groping people. Oh, well, yes, we are. You know, they do this deception thing. And I noticed while you were talking, they were playing some clips. And I think those have audio of what you were just talking about. In fact, what is this clip we've got of the head of the EPA?
The head of the EPA, she went to, I think it was Representative Markey, and told him that it was about, you know, people would die from this, not just be sick from...
Sure, so let's go to that clip right now. Here's that clip.
If we could reduce particulate matter to healthy levels, it would have the same impact as finding a cure for cancer in our country.
Can you say that sentence one more time?
Yes, sir. If we could reduce particulate matter to levels that are healthy, we would have an identical impact to finding a cure for cancer.
That's a pretty good cumulative impact.
Well, and the difference is we know how to do that.
So the EPA administrator is telling us that 570,000 Americans per year are killed by PM 2.5, or 1/4 of all deaths.
But then,
No,
I mean, I've studied this
clip. That's the longer clip where she says it's equivalent to the number of people dying of cancer. And the interesting thing is, it was really kind of a setup, because when he asked her the question, and it's not in that clip, but if somebody watches it on YouTube, they'll see that when he asked her that question, he first says something about cancer and then kind of walks it back. And then, so he already knew what she was going to say about cancer, and then he had to repeat it. So they really wanted to get that out there, that they're trying to find a cure to cancer and that we need to regulate dust. And that was coming along the time that everybody was concerned about them regulating farms. You know, they were trying to come up with a rationale.
Well, they came out and said that they weren't going to let children do farm chores, and then they defended it, but then they said, we never said that. It's that same tactic, and then they ordered those regulations stripped, but that all happened. I mean, it's this deception. But I mean, what's amazing about this is they don't even differentiate particulate of uranium. Yeah, that will kill you. Or particulate of asbestos or particulate of something toxic.
Right.
No, I mean, I've read the regulations on there. They're saying dust, period.
Yeah, it's just the size.
And they're now saying they're going to have the Postal Service vehicles driving around with these sensors. They've already got test ones out to then just create hysteria about any type of dust. And, well, don't worry, the government's going to save you.
Well, and their experiments, they exposed somebody to 72 times what they said is legitimate for a city. So in other words, talking about those postal inspectors going around, they expose these people to, some of them to 72 times that level. Basically, they broke most of the ethical prohibitions that came out after the Nuremberg trials.
Well, that's right. I mean, I've kind of gone far afield here, bringing in different subjects, but explain how big a deal it is that they have trucks. In fact, we have photos of this. We're showing some Nuremberg footage there. Trucks, which the Germans actually did, pumping it in and then telling the college students and people, oh, we're just doing an environmental test, but not saying, hey, how about some carbon monoxide and everything else that comes with diesel fumes?
Well, they just had a professor say that he verbally told them that there's a possibility they could die. But that's not at all what was said to them in the written consent forms. The written consent forms said there might be some discomfort that they get over in a couple of hours, that sort of thing. So they did not have written consent to do this. And according to the EPA themselves, people could die from this. Now, there's a question as to whether or not that really is true, or whether they're over-exaggerating the effects of PM 2.5. Like you said, just looking at the dust particles, not looking at what the particles are. It's not uranium, but it's just dust. There's a question as to whether or not that's as dangerous as they say it is. But now they're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place, because they don't want to admit that they've overregulated PM 2.5. And yet, if they don't admit that, now they're into a real ethical quandary, because they've experimented on people with things that they said are deadly.
Sure. I mean, I'm not a bioethicist, but I study what they say and do, and I study the previous Hippocratic oath that was done before 15 years ago when they threw that out, getting us ready for the death panels and the eugenics and state-run healthcare, the nightmares that come with that. But if you're in a position of authority above someone, a professor, these people are paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to get this degree, and then to ethically have the form say one thing and then verbally say something else, if that's even true, that's even more unethical, because now it's, well, I got a verbal consent, but there's no proof. Plus, you're in a position of authority where people are basically killing themselves to live, killing themselves to have the job. It's like saying to a woman, well, you can keep this job here, you got to have sex with me. That's called sexual harassment. So I don't think that's going to hold up. They've got a major civil issue here on their hands, even if they did say verbally this could kill you.
Well, I mean, the issue here is like human sacrifice. You can't do that. You can't justify somebody giving their life, for a possible, cure or something like that. There has to be, the prohibitions from the Nuremberg Council, as well as the university has ethical issues, and the EPA has ethical issues, and rules, I should say, not issues. They do have issues, but they had rules prohibiting this at the university, at EPA, as well as the general Nuremberg rules, and all those were violated. And
so now, will they punish the people that did this? Well, no, because it's sanctioned from the top. But expanding on that, what's your take, David, on the whole history of secret testing that gets declassified from time to time, and the fact that no one ever goes to jail for this?
Well, the fact that no one ever goes to jail is a little bit different. I mean, the fact that people even do it, it kind of goes back to the Milgram experiments, where the famous, I think it was Milgram, wasn't it? Where they told people to do things that would cause a great bit of discomfort.
Yeah, the prison guard study.
Yeah, eventually kill people, and then they did it in a French television program, and they did it live, like a game show type of thing, and they found that the contestants would expose people to fatal dosages of electricity. And so you've got a lot of people who, because they want their job or whatever, you know, they'll do anything. I mean, it's like...
And that's just the mercenaries. I've talked to physicians and cancer research scientists who have admitted to me, multiple ones, that some of their colleagues just get off on people that sign consent forms who are, you know, stage 3 or 4, and that they really just get off on chopping people up and injecting poisons into them and stuff. So smart psychopaths, smart sadists, they go in to these medical scientific fields like Mengele because that's where they can get away with it.
Yeah. Well, you've got the sadistic element, you've got the mercenary element, and then you've got the, you know, people who will just do whatever authority tells them to do. You know, that's kind of the Milgram experiment type thing. So, yeah, you've got all 3 of those things involved there. But what's happening with the EPA is it's kind of like empire building. You know, they're looking to expand their reach and their regulations, and that lets them hire more people. It gives them more power, and they don't really care what they do to people to get that.
Well, that's like Austin, Texas. Every time there's low clouds in the spring, which is normal because this is where the low pressure out of the Gulf stops. I mean, the news guys admit this, and they'll send a plane up, the EPA will, and say, look at the smog. And then I'll actually go look on their meters and things that are online. There is no smog here. This isn't L.A. in some basin with mountains in the ocean. And they just make it up. And they say, see that? That's smog. And it's fog in the early morning. And it's just crazy that they'll go up in a plane and show a fog bank and then tell people, oh, we need higher, you know, emission standards. Meanwhile, China and India and all these countries have no standards. All our jobs are going there. They know by shutting us down, as they've said, a post-industrial world under Agenda 21, that will bankrupt us into the arms of government. But worse than that, again, even locally, the local Agenda 21 people are the families that own the papers, the families that own the main land, the big law firms, the land flipping law firms, and they are exempt from all their regulations. So it's really just mafia. I mean, that's all we're talking about.
Well, Agenda 21 is the big thing, and it's at the bottom, and people don't see it. What you're seeing also going on at the top is you're seeing consolidation. Now in North Carolina, the 2 big power companies just merged there, Duke and Progress Energy. And they created the largest utility company in the country because they're outside of North Carolina as well. And it's kind of similar to what happened with Nations Bank and Bank of America. And I think you're going to start seeing this kind of consolidation with utility companies. So people do see that. They don't see the Agenda 21 thing. But there's another element to it. And I guess it's you know, perhaps not as serious as the Agenda 21 thing, but it's another element that is, you know, shutting down power plants, raising the cost of electricity for people by going these boutique types of power generation. And it's almost kind of like a pincer, you know, where you've got the big claw on the bottom, that's Agenda 21, and on the top you've got, you know, the corporations that are shutting down the power plants and raising the power rates and that sort of thing.
It's incredible, but I mean, it's the picking winners and losers. You saw how last year Obama gave GE waivers on all their plants.
Yeah, yeah.
So they get to operate, and then other plants get shut down. I mean, don't people get that we're told about racial inequality or discrimination all day, or sexual or religious, but that's all a distraction more and more because there's all this economic discrimination going on, but because it's hidden in the bureaucracy, people just don't get it.
Well, and that's the thing with Nations Bank, when they merged with Bank of America, it was so large that you know, they needed to have special approval. It was the largest merger they'd ever had at the time. But the guy that was driving it from Nations Bank there in Charlotte was very connected politically to the Clintons. You know, he got it through. Same thing is happening now with this merger of the power companies. The guy that's running Duke Power is very connected to Obama. They gave him a $10 million line of credit, and they said, oh, don't worry, it's just a $10 million line of credit for the DNC convention. Well, they finished $15 million in debt, so they used that $10 million of credit. So that's coming out of the pockets of the people who are paying for electricity in North Carolina. You know, and that's exactly what you're talking about. It's that kind of crony capitalism with people who are politically connected, getting approval for these giant mergers.
And as we showed earlier, we've got people on the streets of Austin, where this show originates from, this news program, where they go, yeah, Obama sent me $200 because I voted for him.
Right.
And, well, Bush did that too. Remember the $200 or $300? And these people feel like they're getting this because they vote for big government. So they're selling out for some track phone they could have for $20 a month.
Yeah.
and they're trying to give them to families now that make over $50,000 a year. And they want to take part of your paycheck and put it in Social Security so they can take it and spend it and then make you dependent, but then you feel like you're getting something free.
Well, you get that free Obama phone, but then they're going to find out if they're in North Carolina that their utility bill goes up $120 a year, you know, on average with the new increase.
Well, listen, I mean, in Austin, Texas, in the last 5 years, power rates have doubled. And they don't hide it. They put it in the paper going, it's for the earth. And Mayor Lee Leffingwell comes out and says, we're paying for the Formula One track because it's for the earth. They get an environmental fund thing because Formula One tracks are for the earth. I mean, listen.
But not NASCAR, right?
They wanted to cut down trees to build buildings down at the old park and take it over and charge more and gentrify it. And they said, well, we got to cut trees down. They're actually bad for the environment. I mean, you find like it has nothing to do with the environment.
Well, in North Carolina, where they did Duke Power, cut down hundreds of acres of trees, slash and burn, and that was considered to be renewable energy. You know, I mean, they didn't really generate any power out of it. They just, you know, cut these things down. But it gets silly like that. Apple's got a gigantic server farm that they've built outside of Charlotte, and they've cleared a huge amount of forest out to put in solar panels and fuel cells. But a lot of that's being subsidized by the government, again, like Solyndra and other things, you know, that...
Yeah, we pay for it so that Al Gore can be on the board, and their factories literally are the worst in China with suicide nets around them, and they do monthly pregnancy tests at the Foxconn plants and do forced abortions if you want your job, and they make them work sometimes, 18 hours a day, but here's the deal, you don't get paid for the overtime. And by the way, people won't believe that. Type in Foxconn or type in, because that's the subcontractor, type in Apple, because Apple demands this. The point is they're the most brutal. Of all of China, they have the worst records over and over again. The suicide nets, if viewers out there don't know this, look it up. I'm not joking. And on top of it, again, this is what Al Gore's running, demanding. Everything always taxpayer paid for. Everything based on fraud. Everything based on lies. And then you've got Apple. I'm not even knocking their products. They're pretty good products compared to a lot of stuff out there. I use them, but I've got to be honest that it's very immoral that they're up there pushing how they're holier than thou when Apple comes into every town. They came into Austin, only hired a few dozen employees, tax exemptions. I've gone to the city and said, hey, I got 50 people. Can I have tax exemptions? They literally wouldn't even return my phone calls.
Yeah.
Because I'm not Al Gore. Right. Yeah, there it is. iPhone, iPads, and forced abortions. Campaign demanding Apple plant stop coercive family planning gains. What is that, WorldNet Daily? There's actually like a Washington Post article about it, but it's there were several I saw, but the first one I saw was like, talk about progressive. They're doing a great job. They do a monthly pregnancy test and do it right there at the plant. Yeah. And if you're pregnant, hey, you're going out on the street, baby, if you don't get rid of that baby. Yeah, that's WorldNet Daily right there. But, folks, you cannot make up. I'm just ranting.
Well, they've got plausible deniability because they can blame it on Foxconn, you know, and say it's not
Foxconn.
Apple.
You're right, Foxconn.com.
Yeah, but the same thing happens with the regulatory agencies. You know, the Congress creates these things and then basically lets them run loose. And when they get out of control, like the EPA, you know, they come back in and pull them in. And, you know, and actually there is a Senator Inhofe has called for hearings on this EPA testing. So we'll see what happens with that.
What do you call that in the bureaucracy? Because I've noticed the globalists, they have these big councils, and it gets signed off on by 3 or 4 groups. Then the media pushes why they're doing it. And then when something goes wrong, everybody just denies, and it's a science to it now.
Oh, yeah.
What do you call that? I mean, quantifying it.
Oh, I don't know. I mean,
buck passing? What?
Yeah, they call it plausible deniability when James Bond does it or whatever, or Mission Impossible. You know, they want to, you know, they say we'll disavow any knowledge of what you did. Well, that's basically what they're doing all the time. You know, making sure that somebody else can take the fall for it, or take the blame. You know, they create these agencies. They create. Give them a regulatory direction to go, and when they get out of control because they're not overseeing them or writing any direct regulation to control it, they kind of abdicate their power to these agencies. So they're not doing they're not writing laws and letting the agencies write the laws. So then they can come in and say, well, that's all right, we'll save you from them.
Well, I plug this a lot, and people always read it and misunderstand it because it says in U.S. Code Title 50, Chapter 32, subsection 1528, paragraph B, And guys, I want to do a report on that tomorrow night. I want to pull that up and show everybody. It says no experimentation allowed without full authorization and consent, pages. Then it says unless for scientific research purposes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then that's how they do all this.
Right.
That's how they get away with this. And, it's like listeners hear me say 5 years ago was in New York Daily News that they take foster kids and were testing pesticides on them till they die. And then people go pull it up and they go, my God, that's true. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's my point. The bureaucratic class has this bureaucrat talk. They have the corporate interests that finance them to shut down their competition. And they're just moving forward. They're not stopping. They have a plan. Right. They're in control of us. The only group the elite aren't in control of is themselves. They've got the plausible deniability, they've got the BS going, but they don't have any mechanism to stop them from drinking their own Kool-Aid, smoking their own dope.
Well, everybody knows about the Tuskegee experiments, but all these other experiments that you're talking about, it's never hit the public. The Tuskegee experiments got a lot of traction because there was a racial element to it. But they've ignored all these other experiments that are going on all the time. We just hope something can happen with this latest one that's going on right now. Hopefully they can stop it. Hopefully they can get some traction, but we'll have to see.
David Knight, I am excited to have you here in the operation. You bring up these points, and I start interrupting because it brings up 100 other points I want to make. You've got the floor. Looking into that camera over there. Tell us about yourself, because you haven't been bragging that you're an engineer and things in your own right. Tell people about yourself, about the work you've done, and what you hope to achieve here at the Infowars operation. Because what I've done is I've hired 6 reporters on top of the 3 others we have. And then, everybody's here is doing camera, editing. We're all working as one team. We plan on getting even more people in here thanks to viewer support. But all of you have your own knowledge, your own specialty areas you want to get into. Tell us about yourself a little bit and some of the areas you want to, get into.
Well, I've been doing video production work in commercial fields, that sort of thing, and I wanted to come here and work with you, Alex, because I think it's really important. I mean, there's a lot of stuff happening. It's not being covered. I mean, it's not just the EPA testing. I mean, there's things that you talk about every day that the mainstream media just doesn't talk about. Nobody else is talking about it. And people just have to wake up. We have to tell people that. And so, it's worth it for me at this stage of my life to rip everything up and move my family across the country to come here and be a part of that.
Well, it's exciting, and the commitment of all the reporters. Some of them have been here now, the new crew, like 2 months. They're loving it. I'm loving it. We've got the last wave crew that helped build the base, 4 guys who've been here now for 14 months. Rob Dew's been here for about 4 years. Aaron Dyke's coming up on 7. Rob Jacobson, 7 years. And, we just really built an incredible platform. Now, again, I've been jumping in a lot because we've had a lot of fascinating and revealing, discussions about what's going on in the world. Overall, where do you see society going? I mean, I meant to go on the radio today and say, hey, the fact that we've got all these affiliates turning us on shows that even though I come off like a maniac sometimes, people now have seen enough tyranny to go, wow, this is something we need to look at. Because I get so negative sometimes about what the globalists are doing. I want people to know I'm not doing that because I'm trying to scare you. I believe people have passion for liberty, and if they're faced with the reality, that I believe people are going to rise up. And I was talking to Lindsey Williams today. He said the elite are gauging to see if we'll put up with this because they're amazed at what they've gotten away with. I mean, how do we get people to wake up out of that trance?
Well, I think we're kind of coming into, I don't know if you've ever seen the book The Fourth Turning or not, but it's basically it's a take on history that says that about every 80 years you have a major turnover in society. And you've got essentially 4 groups of generations that are spaced about 20 years apart. And based on your age and this cycle, you interpret things differently. So, to kind of summarize it, they're looking at, this being a turning that's kind of similar to what happened around World War II. This is a major thing that's coming up. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. I don't think that history is completely cyclical. I think there's a progressive element to it. And certainly, it's different every time it comes around. There's a lot of technological...
But there are patterns.
There are patterns. And there's a lot of technological issues involved this time. That's really where it's going to be. It's going to look different. But we're coming up to a point where society is going to fundamentally change, either for the better or for the worse. And if people don't understand what's going on and they don't see the big picture, it's going to change fundamentally for the worse in a big way.
That's right. I mean, even if people only care about themselves, they should be obsessed with this information. That's why we can look at Google Analytics and things where they, you know, track everything online. And Infowars, despite all my annex and the rest of it, people recognize it's real. It's a real discussion. Has one of the highest education and wealth metrics out there. And of course, we have the general population as well. It's just we don't dumb things down.
Right.
We're having teleprompter-free, real discussions with people that really spent their life studying this from different angles. And, I mean, I think about how they're sterilizing us so that they can then, and I saw this, but anything you can break down your mind intuitively, you can go then look it up and they're saying it. It's amazing once you get a really deep level of knowledge that they're slowly sterilizing us so they can take control of reproductive programs and then engineer us the way they want. And then now that's in the New York Times. Oh, everybody's going to go sterile now. Within another generation, most people will be sterile. And so don't worry, we can take your own stem cells and make your own egg, and we'll just make it for you. But we are going to, it's going to be government funded. We're going to make sure that's not an aggressive person. Because, you know, it's mentally ill to want to be free or be aggressive, you know. And so what they use Ritalin on, low-tech to hurt leadership, you know, type males as they're growing up, targeting them. The teacher doesn't even know. They're given another template of why they're targeting them. I mean, it's so sophisticated with the compartmentalization, and the ether in which it swims is the ignorance factor. But then you see, you know, the drones that I can buy for now, $8,000. They say in a year they'll be $4,000. And I've gone out and seen them tested. It launches. It can go 5 miles away and come back. I can pre-program it to do whatever I want, or give it autonomous commands for $8,000. Well, the Air Force has got billions, hundreds of billions. It's already got, I've talked to people, they had autonomous drones in the late 70s. I've talked to the former head of Star Wars program and others, and that's highly classified, but that leaked out so Dr. Bowman could talk about that. I mean, it's Buck Rogers. That's why they're on such power trips. But then again, I say to the establishment, okay, you got Buck Rogers, super advanced technologies. You were talking about doing engineering, how it's 1,000 times smaller now than just what it was 25, 30 years ago. Well, imagine what the real tech is and the more exotic stuff. I'm ranting points on that. It's just that this convergence is now coming, and you're right. If we don't get a hold of this, we're not going to survive. And the tyrants say, well, we're bringing in tyranny to protect everybody from that very thing, Jones. Yeah, but you guys aren't even in control of yourselves. I mean, it's kind of like, you get my point. They've got all the bases covered but themselves.
Well, I think the thing that was really chilling to me that I read was an excerpt that you had from Ray Kurzweil's book, where he was quoting the Unabomber, Kaczynski.
Yes. And
his vision of the future and where things were going. I mean, that was scary. That was really scary. And yet, you can see it happening. You know, you can see that he actually, I mean, not to justify anything that he did, but he certainly did understand where things were headed. Kaczynski did.
Sure. Well, Kaczynski, the LA Times reported, was actually in covert operations with the CIA. And so then he was a guy that was highly intelligent, led into the higher levels and went, I'm not going to be part of this. Because they've made the decision, well, this is going to happen anyways. Let's just commit to the next level of evolution, merger with the machines, and the public, do we entertain them or do we just kill them? You know, that's the quotes. And the decision's been made to kill us. The question is, they're just going to try to, like, finagle, like, where it's cool to have cancer or cool to be, and that's kind of what they're doing now. It's like oh, yeah, everybody's going to start dying. It's kind of cool. But if you're rich, we can still give you a baby. Or a clone. And I mean, it's just crazy.
Yeah, it's very sinister. And you look at what Kaczynski did. I mean, it's essentially, it's like right out of Terminator, you know, the second one, where he's going out trying to take out the scientists before they can accomplish this stuff, because they knew exactly where they were going. But yeah, that was a very chilling thing to read. That I hadn't read that before. I saw that on your site.
Yeah, no, I remember reading like 10 years ago that he was CIA, and then I went to the library and pulled it up and actually found it in the LA Times. Alexander Cochran wrote an article in the LA Times about it, and I found other stuff, and he was recruited. It's just so crazy. We got to do a report on this. I think it was Princeton or was it Harvard? I forget which one he was going to. He was in MK Ultra. He volunteered for MK Ultra. Speaking of university test, and then he went and worked for the agency for a while. So we don't really know who Theodore Kaczynski was later in life, but he definitely saw some stuff. And then what's crazy is Bill Joy of Sun Microsystems, Ray Kurzweil. These are guys, you know, worth billions of dollars. In the case of Bill Joy. Kurzweil at the very cutting edge of transhumanism, a.k.a. modern sales pitch for eugenics, kind of the public eugenics, the porch eugenics. And they're going, oh, this guy's dead right. And we had a meeting. We decided we are going to kill you.
Yeah.
And they're like, there will be a world government. You people won't even matter. You'll be like ants to us if you don't take the brain chips.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I didn't know anything about Ray Kurzweil's, transhumanism stuff until I found it at Infowars. I mean, I knew him from his inventions, the electronic keyboard and the scanners, that sort of thing. I knew him from that, but I didn't know what he was up to with this transhumanism stuff.
Well, he has these rock star events where it's like $10,000 to get in, and Captain Kirk speaks, and William Shatner, all these cool people. And they have these big elite meetings that thousands come to and pay huge amounts of money. And, I mean, it is religious. Kurzweil says, I don't believe in God, but I do believe in God when I become God, to paraphrase his quote. Guys, do a Kurzweil God quote, just to show people the teleprompter free that I'm not making this stuff up. That's basically the quote. Is like, I don't believe in God yet. Ray Kurzweil, I don't believe in God yet. And then he was asked in a TV interview, what do you mean by that? And he said, well, we will be gods. Mm-hmm. And so go ahead. You can live in ghettos if you want, if you don't take the high-tech system. I said this 20 years ago, but we're going to take it, and then later we'll get rid of you like squashing a bug. But then now we watch the transhumanism Plandopolis thing they show British school children, and it shows the ghettos people are going to live in that don't want to accept all this. So they're now getting ready for this. Yeah, there it is. So you don't acknowledge the existence of the universe. No, I just said that I don't believe that it exists, but I'm pointing out that it is a belief. That's my personal leap of faith. All right, but I ask you whether you believe in God. God is a word by which people mean different things. For the sake of your question, we can consider God to be the universe. And I said that I believe in the existence of the universe. Yeah, that's not his God quote. It's Ray Kurzweil, I don't believe in God yet. And then they ask, well, what do you mean by that? And he says, I'm going to be... Rob Jacobson, you've read a lot of Kurzweil.
Yeah, it's at the end of his movie.
It's at the end of his movie. Right. That's right. That's where I saw it. What's that movie?
The Transcendent Man.
The Transcendent Man. There you go. Yeah, that's where he says it. I mean, I knew I'd seen that. But anyways, I'm ranting. It's just, we're just saying to people, hey, there's more than football. There's more than acting cool. There's more than, going to the park and strutting around going, I'm tough, like I see men doing. And for women, there's more than worrying about, does your waistline look right? This is the whole human condition we're in, and we've had our humanity stolen by television, by pop culture. Right. And people are in this catatonic state.
Well, the old quote, you may not be interested in politics, but politics is interested in you, right?
Exactly.
Well, the same thing's true of the New World Order. You may not be interested in this, but they're interested in you, and they've got a plan for you, and they're going to affect your life. And you need to find out, what their plan is and how they're trying to affect your life. I mean, that's, and there's no better place to find it than here.
That's a great way to put it. I've said that myself. I mean, it's true. You may not care about world government, but it cares about you. I mean, the globalists say world government's just the takeover.
Right.
As soon as they think it's in place and all the bases are covered, the drones go up with the bioweapons. I mean, we got that from the Sunshine Project. The Marines, it was declassified, and then they actually went and got it reclassified and called the guy up threatening him in his house. I mean, Marine Corps generals. And they've got helicopters. This came out of Austin, by the way, the Sunshine Project. And then it got shut down because of intimidation. A professor was running it for about 10 years. And then I talked to other sources, and they're now going away from, like, so that's why they always have the Army crews going, oh, we're out doing mosquito eradication, like you hear in the news. The Army's now helping eradicate mosquitoes in Texas and Florida. And they're just getting them ready to spray stuff because they don't want them to question when they really send them up with the mission with the chemical or bioweapon. And that's what this was. Like, the plans to, okay, do we knock out cities with opiate gas? Well, we'll have 15% casualties from fires, auto wrecks. Or do we just go ahead and kill everybody? And then the next move is they're going to go to drones, and then they just, bases open, drones go up, and it's over. And see, Skynet is run by the globalists. See, people think, oh, that's a movie. I found stuff from like the 70s where they were talking about a sky grid, a Skynet. They call it World Wide Web, worldwide wiretap, a control system.
Yeah, well, the whole internet was started by DARPA.
Exactly, and they think we're insects, and that we can't see them saying this publicly. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I would have said 10 years ago, I did say 10 years ago, it's like, this is really kind of poetic justice. Here's a Defense Department project that's kind of the new printing press. It's been this instrument of freedom. But as I look at it now, I mean, it looks like it was just a rope-a-dope, 10 years on. I mean, it looks like DARPA had this planned all along, just to let this thing go wild and free for about 10 years, let everybody get used to it.
Habitualized.
Yeah, and get used to, get people to want to put all their personal information on Facebook and so forth and so on, to be observed all the time, because that's cool, right? Running the reality television programs.
That changed the norms.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Because we did a thing once for a company that was, they wanted us to talk to baby boomers about their attitudes towards social media. And the thing that was really clear was that baby boomers did not trust social media because of the privacy issues. They had major privacy issues with it, and that was the thing that was really holding them back from doing a lot of things online. Whether it was banking, some of them were afraid of online banking, but for the most part, they weren't using Facebook or any of these things because it was a privacy issue with them. But the younger people don't have that issue at all. They think it's cool.
And then they'll have it less and less, and they ingrain them with this nihilism so that they're rudderless and can just be isolated and victimized. Then you get the handbooks where they said in the 60s, we will end the family, we will promote illegal drugs, we will, we're going to do this. And it's so diabolical. I mean, expanding on that, take Google 12 years ago. I mean, I had I guess his name's David Steele, the former CIA technology guy on, and he actually got threatened after he came on. I won't remember, is it David Steele? Just type in CIA agent blows the whistle on Google being CIA. That was like 7, 8 years ago, and he got threatened and would never come back on about it again. He said, oh, your show, my God, I got threatened. But he said, look at NQTel, Google, CIA, all these companies. I mean, it's these big robber barons. They really are smart. But, I mean, they're totally cold-blooded. But Google, oh, don't be evil. We'd never spy. The NSA is not spying. Now Schmidt comes out 3 years ago and says, of course we're watching and listening to you. You shouldn't do anything don't want out in public. Yeah. Well, really, I mean, it's not bad if me and my wife watch a movie and then, have relations, but I don't do it out in the middle of a football field because I'm bad. Right. Oh, let me just do this publicly. It's like now and they say you're evil. You may be a terrorist if you aren't on Facebook now. You see?
Well, think about how things have changed. I mean, one of the, one of the old series was The Prisoner. I don't know if you ever saw that. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And think about how mild that is compared to what the reality of today is.
1984 is mild, minus the physical part. See, they've set up the incredible control grid. They just haven't dropped the hammer yet.
Even things like... was at Brazil by, it was kind of a Monty Python take on 1984.
Terry Gilliam dystopia.
Yeah, exactly. Where, yesterday's report where they charged the mother, the cops basically ran down her son, who was just a petty theft, but that's not something that ethically they couldn't kill somebody for that, right? Somebody's running away from you. They don't have the right to run him down with a car, right? But they did, and they dented their car, so then they sent her the bill for it. I said, it's like something out of Brazil, where they send you the bill for your interrogation, Remember
that's right, absolutely. And a bug falls in the printer and changes the name from Biddle to
Biddle to Tuttle or Tuttle to Buttle.
Exactly, so they come, and that's exactly how it works. Yeah. And now it's just a matter of course that every day I hear about 3 or 4 people shot in the back by cops for no reason.
Right, and you're talking about that Buttle Tuttle thing, in the movie, like you said, he smacks this fly, falls down the printer, and it misprints the name, and so then they go and arrest the wrong person. And that's the problem that you run into. They've got so many surveillance machines out now that basically they're having to have computers go in and basically triage the footage, and say, this looks suspicious. So somebody might be bending down to change a tire, and they think that maybe he's trying to break into the car. So they call the police, and the police come up, and maybe they shoot him, right, because they think he's a car thief. And but, it's just different things like that, raising a false flag like that because they've got computers.
Well, it's actually come out they do that on purpose. I saw an article in the New York Times about 6, 7 years ago, and it was out of England, but they were starting to adopt it in areas of New York where people on cable get to see the feeds. But then it said in the future they're going to make welfare recipients, it's now begun in some areas, where they've got to work, but you watch a computer screen. But it said because nothing really ever happens, they now insert like a video game artificial things. So then it blurs reality, do you understand? Yeah. To make sure you're watching and you're tattling. But also making it fun. So then it blurs games with reality, hence the drones. Meanwhile, the drone pilots getting awards for killing people because they're so valiant, 5,000, 6,000 miles away. They're actually, they admit, training the computers off of human activity to then totally replace the humans. Then the elites can go order the robot or drone attacks that are autonomous with no other human interaction. Now the military can't say no.
Yeah.
to immoral orders.
Right.
But there's also the move to make humans like biological androids.
And the more they do that, the less people they have to bring on board, right? As they as they automate things more and more, then they need fewer and fewer people to accomplish the objective, right? They don't need a vast citizen army or a militia or whatever. They can get a small professional group, and then they can get an elite group out of that professional group. So they have to, they can find people that will do worse and worse things because they just get a smaller and smaller group of people that'll basically do that.
The answer, though, and they did find that article, and then I'll get to this key point, and then we'll wrap this up. This has been a great talk. They actually found the CIA agent article. Ex-CIA agent, CIA seeded money, helped launch Google. And what was his first name? Yep, Robert David Steele. See my memory. My old-fashioned electrochemical computer was still able to get it. Okay, there you go. And when I called him later, he wouldn't come on. He goes, oh, no, I've never had such threats. I'm going back on your show. He goes, I don't know, God. He goes, you got everybody listening. Anyways, that was all like 6, 7 years ago. How long ago was that? People are like, that's not true. That guy's not real. Yeah, that was 8 years ago or 6 years ago. So we've got all this going on. My point is it's so overwhelming. But I've meant, David, to make this point over and over and over again. I'm going to make it now to people out there watching. Okay? And then I want to get your take on this in closing. This isn't a game. Okay? I mean, I've done the research, and it's far worse. For any mistakes I make where I say things are worse than they are, 90+% of the time, I actually don't estimate how bad it really turns out to be. So things are far worse than what I'm saying. Okay, I mean, reality is so much more complex than what two guys can sit here, explaining to you and showing you a few news articles. It's crazy. They are, with algorithms and with psychological profiles, they are building an army of darkness. And the globalists see it as their ultimate act of creation to exterminate most of humanity and bring in the new Superman that merges with the machines. And these elites, I've studied them, they've hired all these incredible brains and technicians that are compartmentalized and idiot savants to manage it above that. But they are twisted. They are sick. They are evil. And they did an inbreeding program with 5 families as a test from 1850 to 1900. And by 3 generations in, by 1910 or so, it was just absolute monsters. Almost all of the children died or were totally mentally ill or stillborn or mentally retarded. Or there were a few that lived who were idiot savants, super smart, but were basically autistic or had Asperger's. And I'm talking about people like Aldous Huxley. This is the type of, he was part of the breeding program that's public. This has been public for 100 years. In fact, 150, 160 years, since 1850, I guess 162 years. This was a public program. And it was going to produce the God, basically. Okay, so they were wrong about that. The elites have always thought they're God, no matter what culture it is, because they inbreed aggressive, dominant people, but then it causes all sorts of medical problems and mental problems and delusions of grandeur. And then expanding on that, they hyped up things and created Hitler. And then he got out of control, so they had to shut down that experiment. And now they're just saying, hey, whatever mutation happens with open-air GMO, it's, we're God now. It's natural because we're natural. It's survival of the fittest. And they really think they're going to get this program through and that they're going to live forever and blast off in their own private spaceships. And that's not me. That's Ray Kurzweil and Bill Joy and well, really hundreds of these guys. Go read their quotes. Go watch my film Endgame. The New York Times or the Washington Post will quote me as saying, the elite will live forever and blast off in spaceships. No, I'm quoting them, okay? And I don't think they're going to be blasting off in spaceships, okay? They're probably going to destroy the planet and all of us along with them. And I just want humanity to not be run by a bunch of inbred crazies. And I've also done a study of elites. They were almost all sexually promiscuous in every culture. Syphilis, almost all males in royal families, but many of the females were syphilitic. That causes major mental illness on top of the inbreeding and the rest of it, and the power that goes to their heads, the megalomania. And then they created servant classes and guilds of psychopaths and sociopaths that would serve them. And so if you wonder why we keep seeing so much bad stuff out of elites, It's because they were, over thousands of years in castles trying to calculate, whose miller's daughter they wanted to kill, or what weird ritual they wanted to do, or what war they wanted to have, or what cousin they wanted to kill, or, what, their little brothers they wanted to smother in the tower. And that's why they're so crazy. And, I'm just here to tell you, you people should not be running things. And the weird technocratic groups you've got that serve you, you people are crazy too. And you know that. They write poetry and letters and books and fiction where they talk about blowing the planet up for fun. Lenin talked about blowing the planet up for fun as his ultimate act of power. And I just can't believe as a species we're going to let this type of scum take control. And so what I believe and what I know historically can defeat them is I can't drive 55. And you ask, what does that mean? Well, Sammy Hagar, I can't drive 55. They said, you're going to drive 55. We're going to do this. This is a federal test of power. And people fought it and fought it and fought it and removed it. There are things where humans collectively, we're individuals, but the globalists try to create counterfeits of what we already do naturally. We're individuals, but then collectively, people recognize what is best innately for the human tribe and then tend to follow and get behind that by emulating it and actually idolizing it and then taking it internally and then expanding it. Okay, that's why they've taken all the real heroes away, the trailblazers, the inventors, the people that stand up for what's right. So we need the new trailblazers to stand up and do whatever it takes, because physical death is not what matters. Death of the species is the true death that we should all fear, and understand that an incredible science fiction movie is now happening and you're in it. So I don't want to ever hear anybody's bored. And there are so many events where people all over cultures everywhere said, we're sick of slavery. It's wrong. We don't like this economic system. Plus, the middle class figures out it's being exploited by the ultra-rich to leverage them out. That's what really started ending slavery. And real Christians fighting against it. And in 1800, maybe 1%, 2% of the population of the North or South was anti-slavery. 60 years later, almost the entire North and a lot of the South was as well. So it became a Western expansion issue, not really over slavery. And there have been hundreds of issues just in the last 300, 400 years in European Western history where people just stopped complying, stopped going along because, hey, you may not be the smartest person in the world, but you know the system has it out for you. And this system, it would be better for it all to completely collapse and go back to the Stone Age than these people control things. But see, I'm not saying go back to the Stone Age. They actually want to put us into the Stone Age so they control us while they're in these compact, high-tech reservations. So the answer is, people, we had better come up with ways to resist, whether it's hanging up posters in your area saying, I know the globalists are murderers, or I know the Fed's private, or I know, it's little things. Why, when we had opt-out 2 Thanksgivings ago for the naked body scanners, did they nationwide shut down all of the searching and all of the groping because they couldn't have us collectively come in and have a victory and shut them down? You see, they don't want to give us an Alamo. They don't want to give us a Bunker Hill. That's why they haven't killed Alex Jones. They tried to kill my name with the trolls and the liars because there isn't really any vices there. There's nothing to, they know people won't buy it. If they set me up, they've done the actuaries, they've tracked our audience, they've war gamed the whole deal. So they want to kill the idea of activism and resisting. You understand that? Because, ladies and gentlemen, we can come together and defeat these people. But if you're looking for some magic silver bullet or one thing that's going to stop them, it isn't coming. It's all of us awakening and saying no to the system. They don't want to give us a fight, an out in the open fight. They want to covertly poison the food and water, covertly poison the wavelengths we're in. They want to covertly bring this in like the cowards they are, like the little mad scientists injecting a rat. Well, I'm not a damn rat. And my intellect's not twisted like yours, and I have dreams for humanity. I'm not cold-blooded like you. I'm not Skinnerian. I actually do make decisions in my life. I actually am sentient. I actually am a human. And you guys say you're human too. You only tell the yuppies and people that they're an animal and don't have control of their destiny. Well, you know what? I do have control of my destiny, and it's that spark that will defeat you. And no amount of rewiring nanotech vaccines, no amount of your crap's going to work, because this species is ancient, it's strong, and it was created by the entity that created this universe, and we're made in its image. So you go ahead and try to play God. That's because you're a twisted version of what real humans are. And this is the deep secret, and that's why you're going to fail. I didn't mean to go off into that rant. I've just kept meaning to make it on the radio, David. And in closing, I'd like your take on what you just heard. This is not scripted. This is not, teleprompter free. Do you concur, or can you add to what I'm saying about that literal species level race consciousness that's in humanity, survival mechanism? They tell us we're crap and bad to turn off the survival mechanism, so we have an ingrained guilt of ourselves to hate ourselves so that we're ready to fail. They tell us we're failures, David, and we're not failures.
Yeah, you referred to, you said you're not Skinnerian, you're referring to B.F. Skinner, right?
Yes.
And that's the whole thing. I mean, his book was Beyond Freedom and Dignity. I mean, how better can you sum up what the TSA does to people? There's no freedom or dignity to travel anymore. There won't be any freedom or dignity just to flying. There won't be any freedom or dignity to any travel because they are the transportation security agency. They're not the airport security.
They're seizing the flow of energy and humans and everything.
And it's a conditioning.
A military seizes the roads. It seizes the airways. It seizes the ports.
Right. And they're conditioning people as well. Like you said, treating us like lab rats because, you go to the airport and it's like, they let you sit there and watch in line as they're doing all this stuff to everybody. And you're thinking, well, they're going to do, when it's my turn, that sort of thing. And basically it's operant conditioning, You do what we say, and then we immediately let you get, we let you get on your plane. That's it.
And they now admit we crush your genitals, we rob you, we take you in a scary room to make you submit. Now we go and test your drinks that you buy past the checkpoint. Right. Now we scream freeze. Now we're at the airport, at the gate to the plane. Now we're on the plane. Now we're on the highway. Now we're at your public school. Now we're putting our hands on you. It's the total act of domination.
Right. Yeah. When you look at the thing with the drink, okay, and the freeze, like you're talking about, I mean, nobody can make a case that has anything to do with security. I mean, nobody could be stupid enough to believe that has anything to do other than being a game, a conditioning game. They even call it what? Code Bravo Sierra, code BS.
Yeah.
Because that's what it is. It's total BS. And nobody could really believe that has anything to do with security. It's just theater and it's just conditioning to people. So.
Well, I look forward to having you here fighting these folks. What are some of the areas you're looking forward to getting into?
Well, I mean, the thing that I found you over was the TSA stuff. And, I'm very much concerned about that. I think one of the ways that we fight them is getting people to understand juries, fully informed juries. There's been some movement on that in New Hampshire. And there needs to be more.
Awesome.
Yeah, there needs to be more stuff like that. People need to be a little bit more aware of that. And, so civil liberties issues are the things that really bug me. But, of course, also the environmental stuff, because when you look at global warming, you're looking at global governance. And you're looking at this carbon credit thing. I mean, that's basically something that's set up for global banks.
Literally for the Rothschilds.
Yeah.
I think you just said it, though. You said, well, I really want to fight this. I want to fight that. Fight. Yeah. Find your spine, find who the enemy is, and resist them. And don't think you're going to take them down by yourself, folks. All of us, individually, we're weak, but when we reach out, the force is unstoppable. It's an unstoppable force if we just reach out around these people's necks collectively. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're attacking us because they know we're strong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So fully informed juries, the environmental power grab, the TSA infrastructure power grab. Man, I can't wait to, see. I mean, you've already hit the ground running, making some great graphics for us.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
What do you think overall the operation? I mean, you visited before, but now you're here.
Well, you're investing heavily in it. That's for sure. And it's showing. I'm anxious to see what the new studio is going to look like.
Well, I mean, it all comes down to this. We are investing as much as we can of the money that comes in. We've got backup to protect ourselves from any staged legal issues. We have backup to try to run things, for 3 or 4 months max, if things completely implode. And it just comes down to people spreading the word about the broadcast. I mean, also, we have a rule. We don't respond to all the staged attacks and things. Sometimes if it's mainstream media, we do just to illustrate their tricks for people. Mm-hmm. But it's not about defending ourselves. It's about showing people the tricks. But I can intellectually see, and also in my gut feel, the attacks are going to intensify because, you know, the establishment is arrogant, and I like the fact that they're arrogant. I like to be under the radar, but they're tracking us, and they understand we're actually a threat. And we got a lot better chance than the X-Wings going in against the Death Star.
Yeah.
So, I mean, people better know this is it. I mean, folks, the fight is on right now. David, thank you for that time.
Thank you.
I think that was like an hour-long interview. Awesome show. And I tell you, I really clicked with this guy, and the whole crew likes him, and Jakari Jackson, and Melissa Melton, and Dan Badandi, and David Ortiz, and Linda West, who's out in California trying to get her, you know, some of her affairs lined up. She plans to join us. It's just amazing to have all these great people, and I probably didn't, I mean, there's the rest of the crew as well. They're all just amazing individuals. Here's a plug. We need to be strong. We need finances. We're not the government that comes and takes your money at gunpoint and then uses it against you. We're just here saying free association. If you intellectually have seen what we're saying is true, or if you just support free speech and support an alternative out there, and if you feel as we feel that this needs to be resisted, if you know in your gut it does, then join us. I mean, listen, the old Chinese saying is true. The journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. And if you simply commit yourself to things, sometimes you won't even get to the journey place you thought you were going. You'll go somewhere completely different. But it's even stronger in the fight. And so buy the books, buy the DVDs, buy the T-shirts, buy the ball caps. You'll also meet like-minded people on the streets. Go and subscribe to Infowars magazine. Get 12 issues and the first inaugural issue on international banking cartel taking over our society at InfoWarsShop.com. Or you can also call 888-253-3139 if you'd like to get 12 issues plus the first issue delivered to your door, shipping included, $59.95. I can't really say that supports our broadcast because that's at cost, but the information supports humanity, and I get a thrill watching 100,000 of these go out every month. and believe me, people are so used to internet now. That's why we're now going back into organic, where our main attack is digital. But we need to start leading by example with physical, because believe me, this is all going to have a resurgence. And they're going to put environmental taxes on it. They've got a plan to shut this down. In fact, I already instinctively knew it, but went and looked it up, and sure enough, they're saying exactly what I thought, but just from their perspective. Because once you know the enemy, any good general knows their enemy. Once you know the enemy, I know what's in their fist, what cards they've got. I don't know which card they're going to play at a certain time, but I know what they can play. I know who they are. And that's my mission, is to find other people who know who the enemy is so they can become the great leaders they are at a higher level, to inspire you to be leaders. You know, in the final equation, that's the reason I'm getting reporters in here and expanding what we're doing, even though I quite frankly hate management and hate the bureaucracy of having to, organize things. But it has to be done because in this time and space, Infowars.com and Alex Jones, yours truly, and my whole team, Rob Jacobson, Aaron Dykes, everybody here, the whole crew, what we're doing historically is making the greatest difference. And others may partially sell out of fear or the invite of power, like we've seen the last few months by some folks in Congress. I will never sell out. Ever. Until death, I cannot physically sell out, because I've seen the other side. I've seen what you couldn't, as I've said, kill me right now, because I'm never selling out. And I don't want to die. I'm not saying I go commit suicide tonight. My point is, if they had a gun to my head and said, go out and go against this, I wouldn't do it. And that's what they hate, is the conviction. That's why they spend all their time telling you we're not real and we're bad and we're this and that, because they don't want you to believe there's any good in the world so that you can believe you're good and go out and fight. You understand that? They don't want you to model yourself after us in just the resistance, in just the energy, in just the anger and the understanding. And they know you have powerful minds. They know and understand that you can start to analyze them instead of spending your time analyzing sports all day. And they're afraid of that. That's why they've done all the chemical attacks and the rest of it, but they dare not go too far with the chemical and biological attacks to dumb us down, as they brag, and ecoscience and other places they like to do, because we're warning people, and now it's becoming a little too obvious. This is a death struggle that we're in. And spread the word about the money bomb. We need to raise at least $400,000, $500,000 just to get the satellite uplinks and other software systems and secure, you know, the cushion we've got as emergency backup. And you know, quite frankly, I think people should give us $50 million. I mean, if that happened, you'd see, well, you'd probably see him kill me. That'd probably come to that point. But the point, we're here, ladies and gentlemen, doing this. InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com, 48-hour transmission. You're going to be sitting in for a few of the hours talking. I'm going to be broadcasting probably 14, 15 hours at the time. But we can't let the old crazy man, you know, get too tired. Because I've got, the woods are lovely, dark, and deep, but I have miles to go before I sleep. Okay, that's it for this edition of InfoWars Nightly News. It's teleprompter free because it's important to really give you what we're thinking and what we're studying. And you're just getting a behind-the-scenes research of the discussions and the work that's going on here. I've gotten tempted to start mounting cameras, the real reality show, where people can have respites in certain areas of the office, but just have live feeds going in other areas, so people can really see what's going on around here. And maybe live cams on the editing and the research. And all right, that's enough. I'm brainstorming too much here on air. Lord willing, I'll see you back on the radio tomorrow, 11 a.m. Central, and back on the Nightly News. I'm hosting tomorrow night as well, right? I'm hosting tomorrow night, right? Forget what I said. Yeah, I am hosting tomorrow night. And we're going to have David Knight in here next week one night. What's that? And Thursday. So if you're tired of Pumpkinhead, you just better just stick your head in the sand. Oh, they've been asking. I know the viewers have been asking for me, but anyways, I like watching the other guys do the show and gals. All right, that's it. See you back tomorrow night.